loves, this is Ro. Welcome back to my channel. Today, I have a topic that unfortunately, if you've been doing this for long enough and you have a loved one who's incarcerated, you will go through at some point or another. And that is getting your visit terminated. I want to talk through the times that I've gotten terminated from visit and then tell you some stories of a couple of friends who've gotten terminated, and the worst story of one of my dear friends' visits got terminated. It was so bogus and I felt so bad for her. So the first time that I personally had my visit terminated, it wasn't for behavior, it wasn't for anything like that. It was because I went to the facility. The facility was on lockdown. There were no visits that day, so everybody was terminated. And that's not really a fun story, but that's just one I wanted to throw in because that has happened to probably every single one of us. If it hasn't happened to you yet, consider yourself lucky, but just take this as fair warning that if you're doing this for a long time, eventually it will. It's just part of it. And we always suggest calling before you go. Now, here's a caveat though. If I called before I went, I wouldn't necessarily take their word for it because they don't always tell you the truth. But if Adam was on lockdown for, let's say, a week, and I called the facility the day before visit and they said that they were still on lockdown, I would not get in my car and drive 6 hours, only to most likely be disappointed. So the first time that I was in a visit and I was terminated, it was for overcrowding. It was totally legit. I had gotten there early. In the federal system, the way that they terminate visits for overcrowding is, first of all, how far the family has traveled. Second of all, how often the inmate gets visits. And then third of all, the time that the family had gotten there. So if I got there at 8 o'clock in the morning and I go every single week and I travel only a couple of hours, then I'm probably one of the first people to be terminated. And let me backtrack for 1 second. That's how they're supposed to do it. It doesn't happen like that every time. And to be honest, in administrations and the visit cop's defense, sometimes it doesn't happen like that because let's say it's me and Adam and I do go every week, which I don't, but he gets visits often and I'm not driving across the whole entire country or flying. I could be the first in line to potentially go, but it could be a family of 5 that they need to sit and it's only me and Adam, so they only have 2 chairs. So they'll leave those and they might kick out a family of 4 or 5, so then they have enough chairs to sit that family. I hope that makes sense. The next time that I was kicked out of visit was a time where supposedly it was packed and it was overcrowded. So we were sitting there at visit, maybe it was 11 o'clock in the morning and visit goes till about 3. And the cops quieted everybody down and they said that they had an announcement, and this guy walks into the middle of the room. Back then, all of the chairs were facing in one way, lined up kind of like church pews, and then in this way, all facing the middle. And there was a long aisle down the middle, and the cop's desk was up there in the front, and then the door to exit was up there in front of that. And this cop stands in the middle of that long aisle and he says, listen, we're over capacity. We have 12 people downstairs that need to be processed in. Do we have any volunteers who want to leave? And there was a family at the time who the parents went to go see their son every single week and they only traveled a few minutes. They lived in town. So they would always be the first ones to volunteer to go, which I thought was so super sweet, because we're all going through the same process to get in there, but they were giving up their chairs for people that had traveled. They were really respectful of everybody and the people that were coming in. They offered to leave and he said, thank you. And then he said, well, he said, you have about 5 more minutes to figure out if you want to volunteer to go, because we got 2, but we need 10 more seats to open up. Of course, nobody's volunteering themselves to go. And so he said, okay, I'm just going to pick names at random. So I think they called about 5 people, this one, this one, this one. Then finally they go Clausen. And so my friends were like, oh, I had 2 girlfriends with me that weekend and they were both visiting their loved ones and they were like, oh my God. So we had gone in separate cars because of situations like this. We've been doing this for so long. We're basically veterans at this point. So we know that these situations can arise, especially on a busier weekend. Well, this was Saturday, not Sunday. Otherwise I would have just gone home. But I said, it's no big deal. I looked at my friend. I literally took the food that I had on the table. I threw her the packages of food and I said, goodbye, I'll see you guys later. And they were so upset. I said goodbye to Adam. He was disappointed. I was kind of disappointed, but it's just part of it. If you think about it, in 10 years, I've gotten kicked out of Visit twice for overcrowding. That's not terrible. You just have to grasp and think about those things. So I left. It was probably late mid-October then, and where Adam lives now, it snows there at that point. He lives as very north and west as you can get in Pennsylvania. He's only a couple hours from Canada, an hour and a half from Buffalo, so they have very, very long winters. And I remember I went back to the room, I changed, I got a snack. There's a little strip mall there with a nail salon, with a dollar store. There was a Subway, there was a CVS, a liquor store, and a couple of other little stores in there. So I went to go get a manicure, and then I was going into the dollar store. I actually made a live video back then on Periscope or Facebook Live talking about it, talking about how it's just par for the course. It's part of it. I wasn't upset. My friends were like, how dare they? It wasn't that big of a deal to me that day. I can't say that that would happen to me every time I would get kicked out, but I was in a good mood that day. It was what it was. What was I going to do? While I was in that parking lot, my friends called and they said they were back from Visit to come back to the hotel room. So I went back and they were both livid. They were so mad. They said, do you know what happened? 2 minutes after you left, they realized that those 12 people were for the camp. They weren't even for this facility. So you got kicked out for no reason. And they were huffing and they were puffing and they were mad for me. I said, guys, don't worry about it. It happens. Not a big deal. So we got over that. We would schedule our visits with each other throughout the time that both of these women's loved ones were in the same facility with Adam. We had become really good friends and we really enjoyed spending time waking up in the morning and going through the getting ready process, going to visit, and then kind of debriefing and having the evening with our girlfriends. We weren't just sitting there trying to waste time figuring out what to do in a town that we don't live in all by ourselves. So it was a really enjoyable process. A couple of weeks later, this one woman was visiting with her loved one. And again, we were sitting on these plastic chairs. They're purple. They're the chairs that have the backs and they're all connected. It goes like this and there's armrests around it, but it's all connected with the 4 legs. Kind of looks like a lawn chair, but it's thicker plastic. So she was facing him, he was facing her, and there was a table in between them, but kind of off to the side. She was sitting in front of him. Now, this was the summer at this point. It was very hot in there. She was sitting in front of him, facing him. They were talking. She was sitting like a lady, and she had her legs crossed. Well, all of a sudden, the cops charged at them and they said, get up to the front to her. And they ripped him out of there and they brought him out the back door. So Adam was very good friends with him and we were both turned around. We were stunned. We were shocked. We didn't know what happened. And so all of a sudden, the cop comes back to where they were sitting and he slides that chair. It makes all this noise. He slides that chair towards the front, towards her, and he's pointing at it. And then he leaves. He walks her out. And we finished our visit. She had her car. We met her back at the hotel room. When we got back there that day, she said that they were terminated because the cop said that she was touching him inappropriately. And when she asked, she said, I was sitting there with my hands in front of me. My legs were crossed. How was I touching him inappropriately? They said that when her legs were crossed, she was fondling him with her foot. She said, excuse me? How could I have possibly been doing that? The cop said when he pulled that chair up for her and he was so rude and he slid that plastic chair across the floor, he said, look, there's a wet spot on the chair. She said, I'm sorry, sir. I'm not trying to be rude, but it's the middle of July. You don't have air conditioning in here. My husband's a large man. He was sweating. What? So she said when they left and the cop was walking her down, he was rude. He was making inappropriate comments to her. And it was just insulting. It was mortifying and it was infuriating. So when she left, she immediately on Monday called the facility and she asked to speak to the warden. And the warden would not get on the phone with her. She would not speak to her. The only thing that they would give her was the email address for the warden in order for her to air her grievance. So she typed up this very professional email and she said, that is not my moral character. I would never do that. There were children in the room. I'm asking you to please review the videotapes so you could see that I never touched him with my foot. I apologize that all of this happened. I apologize for the miscommunication, but I want you to know that the way that your cop spoke to me and treated me was highly inappropriate, and I would never, ever do that in a room full of people, especially with children in there. She said, I find that extremely degrading to my character that you would do that to his character. It is so inappropriate that he is in the hole right now for nothing. She was nice about it. She was professional about it, but she was firm about it. And the warden wrote back to her and said, I stand behind my cops. She said, I watched the videotapes and they were inconclusive. Remember the other day I said the videotapes are always going to magically, I think I said inconclusible, whatever that means. The videotapes will always magically be inconclusive when it is in the favor of the officers, the administration, the staff, the prison. They'll always see something, whatever it is that they want to see, when it is against us, against the inmate, against the visitor. So she proceeded to lose her visits for 6 months or a year, I don't remember. He was transferred out of that facility and he almost lost good time and he almost lost his RDAP, which is the drug and alcohol program that you can get in federal prison. I know you guys are laughing at my pinky, by the way. I know, it's weird and gimpy. My stupid human trick. I don't know where it came from. I think I broke it. Anyway, he almost lost good time and he almost lost his RDAP, the drug and alcohol rehabilitation program that buys you a year. It gets you a year back if you complete it off of your sentence. He almost lost all of that because of this bogus claim and this bogus charge. And the day that their visits were terminated, totally bogus. I was friends with the girl. I'm still friends. To this day, I'm still friends with her, although she's not together with him anymore. And she swears that she would never do it. And I believe her. For what? For what satisfaction would a 42-year-old woman get from... I'm not even going to go there. So the only other times that I've seen get people terminated from visit was once when a woman slapped her child downstairs in the processing room, slapped them across the face, and they were allowed to go inside. And then while they were in visit, the administration reviewed the tapes. They called outside law enforcement and came in and arrested that woman, and she left in handcuffs. I think the daughter was allowed to leave with the grandparent. I don't know whatever happened with the rest of that story, but that was awful, but deserved. Slapping your child in the face in public. And then other times, quite a few times, I've seen people leave because of drug interactions when they have gotten caught. So those are the times that I am aware, that I've seen, and that I've been terminated from visit. My poor friend was the worst situation that was fake that I am aware of that happened to somebody that I'm very close with. Thankfully, nothing like that has happened to me, but I've heard of a lot of instances of people where things were planted, things were made up, things were done. I've heard of people who didn't get into visit because they were nurses on shift the night before and they were touching medication and they set off the drug ion scanner. I haven't seen that in many years. I've seen people not get in, terminated away because they set off the metal detector. But those are things that I've talked about in other videos and I'll speak about in future videos if you want. These are more, you get into visit, you're processed, everything's cool with your clothing, with the metal detector, with the drug scanner, and you get in and something off happens while you're there. I one time was there that they probably should have terminated visits because there was an awful hailstorm, hailstorm. It ruined my car. You know what? Let's save that for a future video. If you guys want me to tell the hailstorm story, comment below and I'll do that for you. Oh my God, my car was damaged and it was a lease. We'll talk about that one in the future. You guys keep staying strong, keep loving strong, keep supporting one another through this journey because you're one day closer to it all being behind you. Lots of love from my heart to yours. I will see you beautiful ladies and gentlemen in the next one. But in the meantime, just do the best that you can to keep your visit safe and sound and not get terminated. And these are the things, you guys, that do not not have people who are incarcerated that we have to go through. This is the corruption that goes on even in the visit room with the abuse of power and setting people up because they don't like them and retaliation and all of that fun stuff that our loved ones and us have to deal with inside of United States prisons. So that's it. That's not complaints. That's just cautionary tales and fair warnings. I love you guys. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.